Welcome to Studio 58A, live here at the Jamaica Information Service, our discussion program coming to you live on Facebook. I'm your host, Vaughn Davis. Thank you to everyone joining us online wherever you are around the world. We really do appreciate it. And as you watch, remember to send in your questions and comments so we can put them to our guest. And like how we have your attention, just do us the favor we always ask. Share this video with as many people as possible so we can have a very, very lively discussion, one with lots of participation. Now, in simple words, the term gender equality looks at the rate at which men and women are able to access the same things, be they goods, services, treatment, etc., without being disadvantaged because of their gender. Gender equality is an issue we have been grappling with in Jamaica for decades, particularly in relation to our women. But a number of strides are being made and have been made and continue to be made. They are often led by what is now called the Bureau of Gender Affairs. Here today to help us put gender equality in Jamaica under a microscope is Miss Nardia Mclaren, Research Coordinator at the Bureau of Gender Affairs. Welcome, Nardia.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, wonderful. Now, as I said before, we've been tackling this issue of gender equality for a while now. And although we are going to get more specific as the interview progresses, can you just give me a general overview of, of what gender equality in Jamaica basically looks like at this point?
Okay. Let me start off by saying thanks for having me here.
Wonderful. We're glad to have you.
It's a wonderful time as it relates to gender equality and where the world is going now. For us to give gender such a big attention, gender is now on the agenda. The Bureau is guided by, of course, our National Policy for Gender Equality that was approved in 2011, which has the vision that we want a society in which men and women can have equal access to goods and services and contribute equally to the country's development. As such, we have researched, looked on areas where men or women are falling off and has put programs in place to remedy those issues.
All right, and in terms of, do you feel like at this point in our society that we're seeing the results? Are we heading in the right direction? Do you feel like we're getting there? Admittedly, as we said, there is lots more way to go, but we still have to look at the achievements that we've gotten up to date. So how do you feel about those?
Right. As I said, it's an exciting time. Gone are the days when women were stuck in just domestics. Now a woman can be the prime minister, she can be the president. Seeing we had a past prime minister, she can be a firefighter, she can be a construction worker. Likewise, men, they are not limited to any field, any profession. So we are staying or straying away from those negative stereotypes that held us back. So I can say through our work such as public education, sensitization in communities, and collaboration with other agencies, we have been able to empower persons to move away from those stereotypes that limit their full potential. All
right, wonderful. Right away, have somebody checking in online, Shaquille Johnson, saying, "Look at my beautiful cousin." Shaquille, thanks for the hit. Make sure you tell all y'all relatives, everybody else to tune in so we can them can get a look at what Nardia does for a living and get a better understanding of the work that she does. All right. Now, in terms of, we know that we have a national strategic action plan to eliminate what is called gender-based violence. Right. Can you talk to me about that and what are some of the objectives under it?
For me, the National Strategic Action Plan to eliminate gender-based violence is the Bureau's baby. It's a 10-year action plan that is very comprehensive, encompassing, and aims to eliminate gender-based violence by partnering and including all the stakeholders, from the big corporations to the community persons, because we want persons to be involved, to own it. It has 5 strategic priority areas that looks on prevention, that aims to prevent gender-based violence from happening, protection, so under that we review policies, legislations that deal with gender-based violence, redress, compensation, and also reviewing the databases that were there to collect data on gender-based violence. So it's all encompassing, includes everyone. Right.
All right, I'm sure it's available online if persons want to go take a look at it there. Where can they go to check that out?
Right, and I must add, it's a 10-year action plan. So it's not a one-hit wonder. It has 10 years, different focus, a monitoring and evaluation framework that will be done within 5 years. So after implementing the first 5 years, we will review and come again. For that, we are guided by the Gender Advisory Council. The Gender Advisory Council holds the Bureau accountable for implementing the National Strategic Action Plan as well as the MPGE. So, yeah. Right. If persons want to find it, sorry, right. They can contact the Bureau of Gender Affairs and also check out our website and Facebook. We are always available to the public.
All right. Specifically, we've established that there's a plan to eliminate it, but just for the sake of clarity, what is gender-based violence?
Okay. Gender-based violence is often used interchangeably with violence against women. Not saying that men don't experience violence. Men and women do experience violence. We
have many men out there who getting abused and getting beaten and all these things. So
right. So gender-based violence is an act directed to someone because of their sex and gender that results in physical, sexual, emotional harm or suffering, whether in public or in a private sphere.
All right. And interestingly enough, we understand based on the recent, what's it called? Let me just check my documentation. I had to prepare a lot for this interview, so I don't want to waste my preparation. That the Women's Health Survey 2018 said that 1 in every 4 women is likely to be the victim of gender-based violence at some point in her life. So there's a lot of work to be done to change the attitude of people to the, this is not right, you know what I mean? I have daughters, I really don't think I could stomach fear to somebody going. Anyway, we'll talk about that after the air. No, for the next question. I understand that the Bureau has recently launched a campaign called No Excuse for Abuse. Talk to me about that.
Right. So the No Excuse for Abuse campaign, hashtag No Excuse for Abuse, hashtag NEFA, that is what No Excuse means for abuse. It aims, it's under the component of prevention that's under the National Strategic Action Plan to Eliminate Violence, where we want to get the community's involvement in saying there is no excuse for abuse. So in that we constructed messages that could resonate with persons. We want persons to know that, 1, there is no excuse for abuse, and you are responsible for helping somebody. Calling for help if you know somebody who is a victim of abuse, assisting that person getting help, because sometimes when a person is in the situation, they might feel like there is nobody to turn to.
Right. I mean, so the whole idea of when head go for a pillar, you must ignore them and leave them alone. What happened between man and woman is for them business. That we are trying to reverse that mindset so more persons can do something before. Unfortunately, we have situations where there are murder, suicides, or even horrible instances of abuse, things like that. All right. We have a comment from Laurie Scarlett. Thank you, Laurie. Appreciate it. She says, indeed, the NSAP GBV, which is the National Strategic Action Plan, is comprehensive, all-encompassing, and all-inclusive. Very effective action plan. Thanks for the plug. I'm sure Nardia appreciates it very, very much.
True.
So
she's reading.
Yeah, all right. So how are some of the ways in which the No Excuse for Abuse campaign is being rolled out? I understand you have the messages and so on. What are some of the ways in which people will see it in action?
Okay. So we spent a lot of time putting in work, conceptualizing how we wanted the No Excuse for Abuse campaign to be. We didn't want it to be another talking.
Another one of these things that just come up and go with no impact, right?
Right. And people say it's boring, so them not really look on it.
Don't change their minds or anything like that.
Right. So we wanted behavioral change and it to speak to people. So we were informed, of course, by the findings of the Women's Health Survey, which many persons find alarming, but being at the Bureau, we get this information on a daily basis. So we understand what is happening on the ground. We did our research, we came up with key messages, we did our stakeholder consultation reviews, had our meetings with GIS and CPTC, especially as it related to what messages we would get out there. And we are now at the stage where we are creating PSAs that will be shared shortly that involves persons from the community sharing a message, a strong message to say there is no excuse for abuse, so persons can look out for that. We have promotional materials like persons in solidarity will be wearing the shirts. We will have interviews on GIS like this to share with persons, newspaper articles. We'll also be going into communities, sharing in public education sessions. We have town hall meetings planned as well, as soon as we get the PSAs rolled out.
All right, so there's a lot more to stay tuned and a lot more to look out for, ladies and gentlemen. So make sure you stay tuned to the activities of the Bureau of Gender Affairs. There's lots happening. There's a lot of work that's being done. And we do appreciate it because, I mean, like, this is the hallmark of a developed society. We have to be able to provide and protect those of us who are experiencing these gender-based violence or these kind of difficulties. As well as we have to try and reverse the mentality completely. So unfortunately, you won't have much. You shouldn't have this job in the first place. Is what we're saying. We like to get to the point where jobs like these aren't necessary because people appreciate the importance of treating each other, men and women, with respect.
Right.
Now, talk to me about shelters. I understand that a lot of work is being done to create spaces, safe spaces for persons. I don't like to use the word victims, but persons who have experienced, survivors, who have experienced these kind of situations. Talk to me about the shelters.
Right. So we have spent a lot of time as well getting the shelter right. We have one shelter now, and the government has recently got for the 2019-2020 fiscal budget $86 million to get 2 new shelters. So, we do have a plan. But in getting it right, we had to do some reviews. What would the shelter entail? Not just a space where women, survivors of gender-based violence, come. What would they do there? So we equipped it with training. So once they come there, they can leave with a skill, empowerment, counseling, psychosocial support, also a safe space where their children as well can come. So we have 1 shelter, and we have the money now in the budget to get 2 new ones.
All right, wonderful. And the idea is to have 1 shelter in every county. That's Cornwall, Middlesex, and Surrey for those of us who know our civics, right? So currently the one is in Surrey. And that's as much as I can't even because we're really not supposed to give you any idea where it is.
It's not in Surrey.
Well, there you go. It's not in Surrey.
It is private.
Of course. I understand that you're also working with other agencies. I believe the government of Japan recently provided some funds and you were able to renovate an old building to provide another shelter type facility.
That's a transition house.
Well, yes. What's the difference?
Right. So our work is that we partner because the government can't do everything. So the government of Japan was offering funds for something like this, a development initiative. So we applied and we recommended one of our partners, which was Woman Inc., and they got $14 million to revamp their transition house. Transition house is different. You don't go to just stay, you transition. You do a night over and you move on. It's not like you want somewhere to escape. You're just... It's a safe space that you can basically plan your next move, so to speak. All right. And talk to me now about another program that the Bureau is undertaking. It's called your Ambassador Program, which seems to have a similar role to the No Excuse for Abuse campaign. But talk to me about that one. Right. We have a lot of exciting programs. All right. Talk to me. You're going to tell us all of them before this time is up, though. But talk to us about the Ambassador Program. So the Gender Ambassadors Program is a program for involving youths, millennials, young people. My forte. All right. Right. So the government has a gender focal point network that we use in the government ministries, departments, and agencies to mainstream gender in the policies, programs, mission, and plans of the government. So we have introduced the Gender Ambassadors Program to be the school component of that, to say we want the students to share respect, break away from negative stereotypes, bullying, human trafficking, to empower them along those lines, because we have to start in schools on creating a better generation. So the Gender Ambassadors Program will have a gender ambassador that we will empower with the knowledge, and they will go out and share it in the schools. All right, so if somebody's interested is at a school interested, how can they connect with you? What kind of, I'm sure they can call and so on, but what kind of, can you get a little more detail about the kind of training or the kind of information you provide for them? Right. So we have empowerment and training sessions that happen monthly, quarterly, all island, where we train persons on what it is to be a man, treating a woman with respect, treating others with respect, human trafficking, and those, what is domestic violence, what is gender-based violence, what are the negative stereotypes that cause it, for example, toxic masculinity. That is a big part of what we've recognized in the Jamaican culture. So we empower our young men in those sessions on how to promote healthy masculinities.
All right, well, talk to me, and that's something I kind of want to peel back the layers on a little bit, this notion of healthy masculinity. What exactly are some of the messages that you're conveying that help men to arrive at healthy masculinity?
Okay, we know in the Jamaican setting, a man should be rough, tough, strong, don't express emotions. Those are stereotypes that I don't think is fitting to all men.
Yeah, but you're a woman though, so you'd think that though.
I have 4 brothers.
Okay.
And a lot of male cousins. One just tuned in. And I know how expectations on what society puts on them limits their true potential. They must drive fast, they must drink, they must smoke, they must act rough and tough. And that is not really befitting or becoming your best self. For example, if you're having an issue with somebody at work, your boss, sexual harassment, you keep it in, but it's affecting your productivity. You do nothing. You eventually lose your work because you're stressed out. You follow your friends, say, oh, my youth in a drink. You know them way they drunk, drive, speed go home with them. Those are examples.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, personally. I mean, just playing devil's advocate a little bit. I do agree that a lot of the things that I personally would have been taught as a youngster as what masculinity is, if I were to still live by those now today, I would,
wouldn't have your daughters.
I would be holding myself back in a major way. It wouldn't be work out for me. No, mentoring the youngsters. You said this is a personal thing that you enjoy the most.
Right.
And what are some of what have some of those interactions been like? What are some of the most memorable things that you have taken away from those interactions with the youngsters, and where they are going in terms of their understanding of what gender equality is and how we can make Jamaica better in that regard?
Right. What we have found out is that there are a lot of young persons growing up who don't have a lot of positive mentors. Somebody to say, you're going off track, let me guide you. If you're from a specific community, nobody who you can look up to and emulate, because we learn from imitation. So if you're learning from imitation and then you're limited to only what you see, then there will be nobody to guide you along the correct path. If you have already gone down a bad path, there is nobody to guide you to say, you've done wrong, or you slip up a bit. This is how you can go about providing them with a roadmap, also giving them opportunities, and empowering them to make better decisions.
All right. Now, I always wondered to myself, what are some of the things that you might find that men can contact the Bureau of Gender Affairs for? I mean, as you just mentioned a while ago, men tend to be rough, tough, holy teen, those sort of thing. But I would imagine there are some who get to that point where they feel like they need a little help. So what do they call you for, and what kind of help do you provide to them when they do?
Okay. We have first I must inform you that the Bureau is renamed to the Bureau of Gender Affairs from the Bureau of Women's Affairs.
Right.
In 2016, in order to facilitate an inclusive approach to gender equality and development. As such, we have our special service desk for men that focuses specifically on the issues that affect men and boys, and put programs in place to alleviate these issues. As such, these programs will see men and boys calling in to talk about issues such as domestic violence. They are being abused. They want somebody to talk to. Not all men are abusive.
Right.
Some of them get abused.
And they're abused. They are the abused.
They are the abused. So they call and ask, how can they treat with this situation? So we offer counseling to those kind of persons, referral services if we cannot do everything by ourselves, because it's a system. And the Bureau is not a one-stop shop.
Right.
So we offer first-level intervention, counseling, and referral services to the places and service providers that offer supportive help.
I mean, I'm tempted to ask you what you tell me if I were to call and pretend like I'm, what are you going to tell me? What? Give me some kind of idea. I mean, I don't know. I just almost
say
feel
woman
like,
beat you?
Yeah, Nadya, I mean, I don't know what to say, but this is embarrassing. But the other day she chose some hot water for me, and
if
so
you're a
on,
woman beat you, you gonna call me?
Yes, of course.
Okay, if you were to call in and speak to the bureau on that, you wouldn't talk to me, first of all.
Okay.
You would talk to the male representative, who is they're cool young men, and they would listen to your problems, call you in for, a sit down and talk.
Because you know the stories, you know the age-old stories. Say, some guy goes to the police station to try and report situation, and the police laugh and run you out until if you go angle your business like a man of your yard or something like that.
Those are also negative stereotypes that says men don't get abused, and those issues are private matters. The No Excuse for Abuse also support that gender-based violence is not a private matter. And in order for you to change, you have to talk about it.
All right, wonderful. Now, not so long ago, was it last week we observed International Women's Day, and the Bureau of Gender Affairs undertook some activities in celebration of that. Can you elaborate on some of the activities that you guys did in celebration of that for me, please?
For International Women's Day, we had a whole range of activities. I'm still tired. Just today, my director went to a breakfast post International Women's Day for the Diplomatics Week, because highlighting the contribution of our women and girls to Jamaica's development is very important. To see where we're coming from and where we're going, we have to put a critical eye on it, because you cannot know what to do if you don't observe it, highlight it, and look a closer issue on it. So International Women's Day, which started off, of course, with a church service. Then we had our symposium on International Women's Day at the Jamaica Conference Center. That was in line with the theme, of course. Can you tell me what's the theme? Sure.
Well, I know what the theme is, but just to make sure you know what the theme is, why don't you tell it to our audience?
The theme is Think Equal,
Build Smart,
Innovate for Change.
So what exactly does that mean? What was that? What was the idea, the concept behind that theme? Think equal, build smart, innovate for change. Yeah.
Think equally. Thinking equally means you are going to look on the issues, of course, that affecting men and women. So once you're thinking about that, men have different issues than men, women have different issues. Innovate for change. You have to ensure that the system structures that are in place are conducive to what is happening, what is the reality between men and women. So for this International Women's Day, it focus on the limitations that are placed on the current structures to see how they can be improved to ensure that women achieve their full potential. Right, so we had this symposium. As it relates to innovative, we awarded women and highlighted women who were innovative in their specific areas. You saw women from the JDF, the Maritime, the firefighters, regular women who moved from poverty to becoming entrepreneurs, the police. So women who rose to the ranks in male-dominated fields and did innovative stuff. So we highlighted them. We also had an award for rural women for their contribution in the rural space. Not all rural women are farmers.
Of course not, yes.
So we awarded rural women for their different contributions to development, community development. We had an empowerment session that saw we even flew in people from overseas.
All right.
to encourage women to know that despite their challenges, they can overcome and they can achieve what their dreams are. Those women shared challenges like getting pregnant early, being single parents, and how they overcame with help to become what we would consider highly achieved women.
So it was like a wide-ranging and wide-encompassing thing. I'm sure you reached the different groups, you know, girls from, you know, small to big women, and they're also involved in the whole participation and execution of the project, right?
Right.
All right, wonderful. So
High schools.
It seems like there's a lot going on. Did we miss? Is there any other particular initiative that you're undertaking now that you want to let people know about so that they can get more information or try to connect with you guys to be a part of it themselves?
We are always looking for persons who can assist at our sessions because we want ambassadors who can go out and be the change, breaking negative stereotypes and being ambassadors for gender equality. So if there is anybody that's so led, they can always contact the Bureau of Gender Affairs.
All right. And is there any particular issue, or is there any particular thing that's close to your heart in terms of one that you, if you had the power, you'd change it yesterday or the day before that? But is there anyone that speaks to you in particular that you feel like if you had the power, you'd change it just like that?
Yes. The similar negative stereotypes. Persons are often bogged down by perceptions that are imposed on them from persons in society that have different mindsets. But once you are empowered, I would want to empower persons to know that they can achieve their full potential irrespective of where they're from, what they have been told. So if I had the opportunity, I would try to empower most persons, if not all, to know that they can be what they want to be.
All right, so International Women's Day. I'm a man, I have to ask about International Men's Day. Any plans or activities planned for that?
And I'll ask you, do you follow the Bureau on Facebook?
Not currently.
No, you're not following. Or on our Instagram page. At the Bureau, men and masculinity issues are big for us. Especially me, right. Even though I'm not a man, because I see too many men, you know, going astray.
Right, right.
And they need some...
Especially our young men, right?
Especially our young men. And they need some positive guidance. And for such, we are going to be implementing our male mentorship program, where we will start from the high school, linking young men with other positive male role models, our permanent sector, PS Star being the head of it, of course,
right,
where they can help and guide them along some dangerous paths that some of them have taken.
Right. Now, I mean, just looking back over the as I mentioned before, the Women's Health Survey 2018, there are just some... At the time, we did a 58A on it, and there were just some startling things that we just had to read out, and some of the findings, and it was difficult to digest and so on. I just want to just go back over them and then have you help me to contextualize it and kind of understand how we're tackling them as we go forward in Jamaica. It says, oops, live television, ladies and gentlemen, these things happen. Or it's not perfect, but these things happen. Just give us a second.
Right.
Let me fix it. All right. Testing. Are we good?
1, 2, 3.
All right, wonderful. Now, as I said before, I'm going to go through some of the findings from the Women's Health Survey 2018. Some things that I personally find unsettling, and if you don't, then I think maybe you need to check yourself out as well. And I'm going to just ask Nardia to help us contextualize this, and hopefully on that basis let persons know why the work at the Bureau is so important and how we're trying to change these things. Now, regarding perpetrators, the survey shows that male partners, young age 15 to 24, use of alcohol, use of recreational drug, and being in another relationship were associated with the prevalence of intimate partner or gender-based violence. Approximately 10% of the women surveyed agree that it was justified for a man to beat his wife for at least one act. 9% agree that it was justified for a husband to hit his wife if she neglects the children. 1 in every 4 Jamaican women has experienced physical violence by a male partner. 7.7% have been sexually abused by a male partner. Most women experience emotional violence being the #1 form of violence experienced in intimate partner violence, followed by physical and sexual abuse. And the highest rates of intimate partner violence occur amongst women with vocational skills training and or high-level education.
Right.
So it's not a respecter of education, class, or any of those things. I mean, any woman, it can happen to any woman, essentially.
True.
So on that basis, just to let persons appreciate the landscape and what you're working against and the where you're trying to get Jamaica to.
Right. So the findings from that survey, the Women's Health Survey 2016, you can look it up, is startling indeed, but it reflects the culture of Jamaica and Jamaicans that normalizes violence and accepts violence as the normal lived reality and expression of love, expression of self, expression of just being. We accept it and we perpetuate it. We beat our children in a form of discipline them, then we say we love them. So from the beginning, children think that violence is normal. What we have seen is that many of these parents, they don't have the skills to communicate, or they have been taught to express or correct their child using violence. So that child becomes victim today, abuser tomorrow. So that is just one of the many realities. So it starts from our culture, it starts in our homes, and it is perpetuated in schools, through parenting, through our socialization system, through our peers who say, I just a little lick.
I just a one box.
I just a one box. Yeah. I've heard persons even say, I just a little sex. So them accept it as normal. So it's culturally embedded. So we accept it. It is our reality. And for that, it's hard to have a cultural shift. So what the Bureau tries to do is to have change from as early as schools, because that's where the change begins, and we want it to change from a generation to a next generation, because you will see change happen through a generation, not through a one person. You cannot match the change and say one person change. So we want to have that generational change. So we start with our school program, the Gender Ambassadors program. We have a schools education program. Women accept that if him love you, him beat him, because they can evoke such emotions in that man to show the same love, because they learned that. So that is also, you will hear me talk heavily of negative cultural stereotypes that permeates through society and persons accept it. They will say, oh, if him beat you, I know our business that Joe over there beat Michelle again, and you peep through the window and you see it, but you leave it because I know your business.
Yeah, because tomorrow they might go up again tomorrow, and you leave them alone because they might start the thing out themselves.
You see one little girl, we are 16, with one man where, or she can be 14 or 12, and you see her with one man, we're like, not our father, 50 odd, 60 odd, and you say nothing, and you do nothing, because I know your business. Women think men must beat them too, because sometimes them think our culture say man for man, woman. True. So when the man beat them don't want to work.
Alright.
So them stay in those abusive situations. So those cultural underpinnings and negative stereotypes, we work hard through our empowerment sessions, that we go to the various communities, rural, urban, all over, MDAs, private sector, churches, to empower and to have public education and sensitization on these issues that perpetuate violence and gender inequalities.
Oh, I mean, as I said, there have been many strides in Jamaica insofar as the gender equality, tackling gender inequality and moving things along. As you know, Jamaica has perhaps the most women managers in the world.
Right.
We have the most, where majority of the country is female-headed. We have female-headed households. Women play, as woman was, as just recently, the Prime Minister, women have occupied the highest office in the land. Women continue to shine and truly perform some really outstanding feats in the country. But that said, it's the data, the hard data continues to show that 1 in every 4 women is likely to be the victim of gender-based violence.
So she can be the Prime Minister.
She could be the Prime Minister.
Still a good league.
Right? So what that means is that we have a lot of work to do to change the culture of our country.
Right.
I mean, as much as many of us would like to believe that this is 2019 and these things are from 1919, the fact is it's still happening, as the data as recently as the 2018 Women's Health Survey can show you. So we still have a lot of work to do, and we're very thankful to the work of the Bureau of Gender Affairs for being able to put the work in so that we can create that culture change, so we can have the Jamaica we want, where women and men, of course, grow together and appreciate that we must respect each other. We must appreciate each other, love each other, and work together to put some of these mentalities behind us so we can move forward and achieve things. I always tell people, chances are a woman probably prepared the child that left the house in the morning. That child left and went to school, where he was met by a female teacher. Then he went, something happened to that, something after that, he was probably taken to a doctor.
That's a female.
Where a nurse, or who's a doctor, is a female, or the nurse is a female. And so what that basically tells you is that the women are contribute a lot to the growth and development of this country. Basically, I would say some could make the argument that they run the country, because they have the children, and so much of what happens in the country is dependent on women doing just their daily routines.
Wow.
So we have to create a culture in this country where women feel empowered, feel safe, feel loved, and feel like they can accomplish whatever they want.
But let me add though, before you go, gender equality, women empowerment is important, but we cannot do without our men.
Right.
So men empowerment, male empowerment, empowerment of men and boys is equally as important as female empowerment, because who the woman them a go have as fathers, as teachers, as role models to younger boys. So gender equality is about shared responsibilities, shared empowerment, shared development, where the contribution, the thoughts, the needs of men and women, girls and boys in Jamaica are equally valued.
Correct. Wonderful. All right. So, as I said, if you're interested in checking out the work of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, you can check them out online. You can follow them on Instagram, Facebook. They're on all social media pages, and make sure you have a look at the National Strategic Action Plan to eliminate gender-based violence. That's kind of the roadmap. You can use that to understand and see the kind of work they're doing. And if you're so led, and I hope you are, you can make contact with them and try to volunteer, get a way to help play a part in improving the whole mindset towards men and women and gender-based violence and gender equality in Jamaica, so we can have the kind of Jamaica that we want, that we can be proud of. Right. I want to thank you, Nardia, for coming and sharing with us. We really appreciate you taking the time, and it's very useful, and we know that there are persons out there who will benefit from this information. Thank you to everyone who tuned into our discussion. Battling a little cough there, but it's okay. Especially those of you who sent any questions, any comments. And not to worry, we will be going through. If you have a question and you haven't been able to send it in, don't worry, send it in, and we'll be going through afterwards, and we can always pass these on to our guests, other persons at the Bureau, so that they can make contact, answer you, and get the kind of information that you need. Now remember, our audience plays a major part in our show. So if there's anyone you'd like us to have in studio next, just let us know, and we'll do our best to have them in studio as soon as possible. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram as well, Jamaica Information Service. We'll also be showing the work of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, so you can check us out to find out what they're going on with as well. We do this every Thursday live on Facebook. I've been your host, Vaughn Davis, and this has been Studio 58A Live. Thank you so much for joining us, and please have a wonderful day.